You are listening to the Eastern Conference Wednesday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. Coming up on today's show as preparations continue for the Eastern Conference final between the Carolina Hurricanes and Florida Panthers, we thought what better time to draft our top line using each team. So we'll get to that. We also have a ton of news and notes. How's Mike handling another early Leafs exit? And what's the latest on the Ottawa Senators sale? All that's coming up. You're listening to the Locked On NHL podcast. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On NHL podcast your first listen on this Wednesday, May 17th. The show is free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the show. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me 5 days a week over at Locked On Senators. As always, I'm joined by my Battle of Ontario counterpart, Mike DiStefano from Locked On Maple Leafs. Mikey, the conference finals are about here, and neither of us had these two teams making it to round three.
No, we did not. And it seems like everything that I've said in this playoffs just has the opposites coming true. Like, I didn't think Seattle had a chance in hell in beating the Colorado Avalanche. Well, they moved on. And I thought that Seattle was going to get swept in 4 against Dallas. They end up taking it to Game 7. And obviously, I opened up my big mouth and said, Leafs in 5, Leafs in 5. Well, it was in 5 all right, but I want the Maple Leafs moving on. It was the Florida Panthers. So, I don't know, man. It's been a wild, wild playoffs. But, as a general hockey fan, it's still been thoroughly entertaining.
So, before I place my bets at FanDuel, who do you think's winning this one so I can go the other way?
Oh, man. Between Florida and Carolina?
Yeah.
I think Carolina wins this one. I mean, but the Panthers have been the underdogs the entire time. They've literally been an underdog in every single game through 2 series, and they've been able to come out victorious in both of those series. They're the underdogs right now at plus 120 over at FanDuel, but I would probably lay the change on Carolina at minus 145. I think that Carolina's just the better team, and I think Carolina's a more well-built kind of, well-oiled machine under Rod Brind'Amour. I think that just the Hurricanes, I think this is their year they get it done. And Florida, it's been a good run, but I just don't see them going too much farther than this.
While we're talking about FanDuel, something where it's now not as bad to talk about is the Conn Smythe and what we could be seeing for a Conn Smythe winner, playoff MVP at FanDuel right now. The favorite is Sebastian Aho at plus 650, Jack Eichel in second at plus 750, Matthew Tkachuk at plus 800, Mark Stone at plus 900, and Freddie Anderson at plus 950. Those are all under 1,000 to 1 odds. Where are you laying the money, or do you like a dark horse right now?
I kind of like a bit of a dark horse, and I'll explain my reasoning because it's bizarre. If you look at the Stanley Cup odds, the Florida Panthers are the biggest underdogs at plus 350, yet they own 2 of the top 6 guys here in the Conn Smythe. One of those, no member of the Dallas Stars is actually in the top 6. A lot of these guys are 1,100 or better odds to win it. I think that the Dallas Stars have a great opportunity to win a Stanley Cup here. I really do. So to see a guy like Rupe Hintz, who's out there just demolishing the league right now in the entire playoffs, I think he's up there right behind Connor McDavid, 19 points, 9 goals so far through 13 games. With McDavid and Draisaitl out of the way, there's not many guys who are touching what he's been doing in this postseason. So to be able to get him at plus 1,100, if they can move on and beat the Vegas Golden Knights, who don't really have the most stable goaltending, I think there's a good chance that they go through. Dallas wins the series, and Rupe Hintz has an opportunity to be the MVP. I think that those odds, it's good value right now on Rupe Hintz.
I think as much as Dallas can win, so can the Golden Knights. Jack Eichel at plus 750. I know it's not the longest of odds, but the series he just had, especially at 5-on-5, was incredible against Edmonton. I think he's just going to keep gearing up as it goes on. But if I want a dark horse, I'm looking at Carter Verhaeghe at plus 4,800, Mikey. There's no doubt he can go out and get 5-6 goals if the Panthers are going to make it past the Eastern Conference Finals. So for a value pick, I'm looking at Carter Verhaeghe at plus 4,800.
Could see it. He's got what? 12 points so far through 12 games. He's ninth in scoring. In terms of the players that are left, I believe it's what? Hintz, Tkachuk, Eichel, and then it's Carter Verhaeghe. So he's fourth right now, tied with Mark Stone and Jason Robertson for scoring so far in the playoffs. So, yeah, that's a really good value play, too. If you got belief that the Florida Panthers can win this series, instead of taking the Panthers at plus 120, maybe you put a little sprinkle on Carter Verhaeghe at plus 48 to win the MVP.
And 3 of his 5 goals this postseason, game winners. Talk about clutch.
Well aware, my guy.
I might sprinkle a little on Joe Pavelski too, just because I'm cheering for him with Dallas. Obviously, he had the 4-goal game. He missed a couple of games with injury as well, but I just love the storyline. So I might sprinkle just to have a little fun on that one.
What about Jordan Martinook, who apparently can go out there and put up 9 points in a series? I mean, if he does that for 2 more series, you're looking at a guy who's sniffing 40, 30 points by the end of this thing. I mean,
well,
no
Jack,
Jordan Martinook love?
Eichel had 9 points against Edmonton.
I know. I'm just kidding, by the way. I think that cools off. I don't believe Jordan Martinook will be putting up another 9-point series here against the Florida Panthers. But, hey, I've been wrong about a lot so far in these playoffs. We'll see what happens.
We'll get back to more Eastern Conference final talk at the end of the show, drafting our top line, top D pair, and top goalie. Always fun doing a little draft on a Wednesday Locked On NHL show. But we've got lots of little news and notes, rumblings, if you will. What do you think is the most intriguing storyline that's of all the ones that have come across, whether it's, the way the Leafs handled their locker cleanout day, the updates on the Senators sale, all bids are in. The Kyle Dubas rumors where he said it straight up. If he's not with Toronto, he ain't going anywhere, but the Penguins rumors are persistent. It seems like the Penguins want to get a GM in place sooner rather than later. We've got Keith Jones, president of hockey ops with the Philadelphia Flyers, and more. What stood out most to you this week?
Well, I mean, I'm biased being in the market in Toronto with Locked On Leafs and Leafs Lunch, but obviously, this is a massive offseason and a big 6 weeks for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, a potentially franchise-altering 6 weeks here for this club. So to have your general manager kind of have reservations on wanting to continue on with the job, I think that is a big time eyebrows raising, situation here. Those words definitely caught my eye when he said he's still not sure if he's going to return, might need to recalibrate for a little bit. He did say Toronto or nowhere, but nowhere is still very much an option. Said it'll take a couple of days to figure out what he wants to do, have a chat with his family, and then let the organization know. But time's ticking, man. It's been about 48 hours since he said that, Monday afternoon, and now it's like, all right, buds, you've had your time. Let's figure it out because there's work to do here for the Maple Leafs. They've got multiple contracts pending UFAs. They've got a couple of extensions that are eligible on July 1st. And obviously there's also the coaching situation that needs to be dealt with. And I think the GM in place will have to make that decision. So chop, chop, Kyle, chop, chop.
It's going to be very interesting. Are you of the belief that one of the core 4 has to go?
I am of the belief that one of those guys probably will have to go. I think 2 of 5 people have to go. The 5 being the core 4, Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, and I'll throw Sheldon Keefe into the 5. I think 2 of the 5 go, probably Sheldon Keefe, and then probably one of those 4. The one that I'm leaning on, do we want to take a quick break and let him know afterwards, or should I spoil the party now?
It's coming up right after the break. You're listening to Locked On NHL. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure that the player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the parts are just right, guaranteed. Get the right parts and the right fit and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. Locked on NHL for Wednesday, May 17th. The Eastern Conference Finals begin tomorrow, but I'm still intrigued by Mike DiStefano's tease there. Who's got to go in Toronto?
I should probably take my my mute off there. There we go. I am of the belief that one Mitchell Marner might be the one who's got to bite the dust here. It's unfortunate. He's a 99-point Selke candidate who had the best season of his career. He's a Toronto guy who wears hard on the sleeve, grew up a Leafs fan, loves to be here, loves to play here. But unfortunately, I just feel like that love is turning into not resentment. I think it's turning into I don't know, pressure. I think that the pressure he puts on himself, it really he just collapses and fades come playoff time year after year after year. It was just not a good playoff for him in particular. Thought that game 3 he was totally inexistent. Game 5 as well. And unfortunately, it's always been the case come playoff time. The big boys don't get it done. And I think that you look at Mitch Marner, uh, it just seems like he might be the guy because Tavares, look, as much as people would love to move that contract, I don't think it's going anywhere. He's got 2 more years left after this. He's the captain of the team. I don't think anyone's going anywhere, and he probably doesn't want to move himself. In fact, he said he loves being here and loves being the captain. So I don't know if he's going to waive, even if asked to waive. There's no incentive to do so either for him. Matthews is one of the best players on the planet. I think they will probably find a way to bring him back and re-sign Austin Matthews. And William Nylander is just an interesting fella, man. I like the cut of his jib. He's got a contract you can work with, and he's a more dynamic player than I think people give him credit for. I think that he's somebody, when he turns it on, which is a lot more often the playoffs than these other guys, man, does that guy look dominant. So I think that he's a player in particular who the Maple Leafs would look to keep, and that kind of leaves Mitch Marner as the odd man out.
And he's got that no trade clause coming in July 1st. Are you saying this needs to happen at the draft?
Well, that's why Kyle Dubas needs to figure out what the heck he wants to do so they can get a GM in place to start making these preliminary phone calls and get things in order. Yes, it's exactly what I'm saying, because a trade is way easier to make in the next 6 weeks than it will be come July 1. So, yeah, I think that the kind of franchise altering move that will be made, I believe, needs to be made, has to get done before July 1. There's 6 weeks. I mean, we got to figure things out here. We can't sit here and wait if you're the Maple Leafs on Kyle Dubas. He's got to have an answer to me as soon as possible. Certainly, I would probably want this before Friday so that this weekend he can get to work and start laying down the groundwork to figure out how to go about this offseason and put the Leafs in the right direction to try and win a cup next year.
Well, it's going to be super interesting because not only up top, but they also have a lot of question marks with a lot of free agents, whether they need to make moves to accommodate them or fill in with young players. Tons of moving parts with the Leafs.
10 free agents they have also to try and work out deals with. Obviously, they're not bringing them all back, but there's a few that they'd like to bring back. I mean, Ryan O'Reilly, I'm sure there'd be a discussion there. I thought Luke Shen had a terrific playoff. They'd like to bring him back. What are they going to do with Michael Bunting? David Camp was a solid player for them. And Justin Hall apparently has some R-rated pictures of this management group and coaching staff, because how else can you explain the fact that he's been able to get on the ice as often as he has this year? So is he going to look into a new extension? I don't know. That's obviously a joke, but there's a lot of decisions to be made and not a lot of time to do it. And the clock is ticking as long as this Leafs team is without a set in stone general manager.
Yeah, and up the 401, take a turn on the 416 and make it up to Ottawa. We have one decision that needs to be made ASAP, and that's who's going to be the next owner of the team. Man, we've been covering this with all the dips and turns over at Locked On Sens, and it's like, man, we just need to reach a conclusion. We know that there's been 4 bids. One is $1 billion. Now we're have all the posturing coming out here. Like, the Nico Sparks group has gotten a lot of late push with the addition of Snoop Dogg. My goodness, it feels like he's offering equity to everybody. I talked to a couple Senators alumni. They've been offered equity in the team for $100,000 a piece. Like, it seems like there's upwards of 300 potential owners with the one bid.
Wow.
How are you ever going to make a decision? And now the Anishinaabe First Nations, which have a land claim at LeBreton where the next arena, they've officially gone out and endorsed the Nico Sparks party. So does that add another wrinkle, or is this just another name that's getting in the mix? It's so confusing because we obviously can't see behind the curtain, right, Mikey? So it's like we're just getting peppered with public releases from that. Ian Mendes has been covering them top to bottom, and then the other groups have just been silent. The only group that hadn't been silent is the one with Ryan Reynolds, and, well, they pulled out. They didn't even make a bid. So right now it's anybody's guess. We know that, oh my God, I'm going to butcher his name, a Greek guy. Maybe you can help me out. He just bid on the Washington Commanders.
Athanopoulos or something like that. It's close to.
Yeah, it's a Greek name. His name, let's call him Steve. Okay. Steve, our friend Steve has a net worth of $3.9 billion.
Yeah.
He put in a bid. And he just bid $6 billion for the Washington Football Club. So I think he can probably handle bidding on the Ottawa Senators. And then the Kimmel family, another Toronto money family, they're in the mix. They've got the Weekend on board with them, and apparently he has like a pretty deep equity stake in that. And yeah, Nico Sparks is just kind of like, apparently he's a Hollywood producer. I recognize zero films. He's more so just like the front-facing guy of a group of 1 million people, it feels like. But they're the one with the most public pressure right now. So it's going to be ridiculously interesting to see how this all comes out.
It will be. It certainly will be. But I don't know. The NHL isn't typically like all the flash, though. So I wonder if that will end up hurting them in the end here. It's entertaining for guys like us in the media who have things to cover, and they're giving us a lot of it. And for fans who want to know what's going on, but ultimately, that's a pretty tight knit old boys club when it comes to ownership of an NHL franchise. I wonder if that almost works against them in a way.
We'll find out what will work for 2 of the other bidding parties. The Kimmels were former minority owners with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Michael Andlauer is currently a minority owner of the Montreal Canadiens. The sound is if he wins the Sens bid, he's not going to have any trouble selling off his shares of the Montreal Canadiens. But those guys, well, Andlauer being currently on the Board of Governors in the NHL, I think is probably going to give him a bit of an inside track as well.
There's one vote. There you go. Boom. There's one vote on the board.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, the next step is we're going to find out who the preferred bidder is. Right now, they put in their final binding bids. Each group put down $50 million. They will get, it's a refundable $50 million if they don't. However, if you put down the $50 million, you're chosen as the preferred group, but then you can't close a deal. Then you lose your $50 million as a negotiating kind of tactic, for lack of a better term. So many dips and doodles, man, and it's hopefully reaching a conclusion. It sounds like we'll know next week who the next owner of the Ottawa Senators might be. All right, let's get back to the conference finals. Coming up next, we'll do something we do often on Locked On NHL's Wednesday Eastern Conference edition. Big draft guys here. We do have the NHL draft coming up soon. Can't wait for that. But we're going to draft the top players from this upcoming Eastern Conference final, and we want you to have your say below. Let us know which team you would be riding with in a best of 7. All that's coming up next. You are listening to Locked On NHL. All right, let's talk to you about a brand new ad, brand new sponsor here at Locked On NHL. It's Bird Dogs. These Bird Dog shorts, we just got them today. So fired up. I look better. I feel comfortable. This is stretchy fabric, but it also kind of looks like you're wearing something, comfortable, but also sharp. They're versatile, gives me some freedom. I love it, man. These shorts are great. So I'm going to be wearing these all over the place. And you can already see lots of people wearing them through successful examples. You go to Pardon My Take, PFT famously never wears pants. The only shorts he truly loves are Bird Dogs. You can get it on right now at Bird Dogs online, birddogs.com/lockedonnhl. So if you go to birddogs.com/lockedonnhl, when you enter our promo code lockedonnhl, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. You kidding me? Look at that. birddogs.com/lockedonnhl. And when you enter code lockedonnhl, they're going to throw in a custom Bird Dogs Yeti style tumbler with every order. So go check them out. They're so comfortable. Great fit, great comfort, great versatility. It's all at Bird Dogs. You're listening to Locked On NHL, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. We've got local experts on the biggest stories 5 days a week. Your favorite team will never feel too far away when you've got a Locked On podcast subscribed on your phone. You can also subscribe on YouTube and leave a comment below. Mikey, it's Eastern Conference final time. There's only 2 teams, Carolina, Florida. Who is your number 1 pick as we draft our starting lineup of players participating in this game?
You're gifting me the number 1 pick here?
Certainly am.
Wow. Okay, hold on. Before we get into it,
it's been a tough week for you. I get it.
Hang on, though. We got to establish how we're going to go about this draft, okay?
Okay.
So are we doing for point system, okay? Just point for point? Are goals worth any more? It's just point for point.
Ooh, let's go point for point. No, 2 for a goal, 1 for an assist.
Okay, that changes things very much in my eyes for who I go with. And second of all, is this a snake draft or are we just going 1-1-1-1-1-1?
I was gonna say 1-1-1-1. What would you prefer?
Well, I mean 1-1-1-1 would definitely benefit myself, but I mean it's easy when you're just doing one after the other, I suppose, and you're just gifting me the first pick, and after that we're going in order. Plus, I don't think there's really a slam dunk first pick anyway, to be honest with you. So yeah, I guess it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense here to snake it up. But all right,
for goalies, 1 point for a win, 2 points for a shutout.
Yeah, good for that. And we'll keep track, and then at the end of the round, we'll tally it up, and we'll see who wins, pal. I'm excited.
5 points for a shutout. Come on, if you get a shutout in a conference finals game.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
5 points for a shutout.
5 points for a shutout. All right.
A goalie friendly show to get that in there.
Yeah, fair enough. With my first pick in the draft, I will select Sebastian Aho. Sebastian Aho is going to be my pick. I like him. I think he's the best player on the Carolina Hurricanes. With Svechnikov injured, that guy's got to be relied upon to score some goals here for this team. I like Sebastian Aho a lot. I think he's going to have a big series. Let's roll with it. Aho, number 1 pick. Welcome to the team.
So we're just doing 3 forwards, or are we specifically doing a center and 2 wingers?
I would do 3 forwards.
3 forwards. Perfect. So Sebastian Aho, first overall pick in the draft. I like that because you're leaving my guy. I know I've bet against Carolina. I'm doing it again. And if Florida's winning, Matthew Tkachuk's fingerprints will be all over it. He's the leading scorer in the playoffs who is participating in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that is why, with 16 points in 12 games, and he's due for some goals because all 5 of his goals in this postseason came in round 1. So he's due. He's my guy. He's the type of guy you win with, and that's the type of leadership we need on Team Ross for the conference finals.
All right, it's a good pick, buddy. It's a good pick. But guess what? I'm gonna actually go and grab myself. I'm gonna go grab myself. Do I want to go there this early? I think I do. Give me. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Give me Brent Burns. Give me Brent Burns. I'm taking the best defenseman available when it comes to putting up points for fantasy that's remaining here in this series. Give me Brent Burns with my second pick.
I disagree. I think there's a defenseman who has better point production, and I'm not letting you get one and two. So I'm taking Brandon Montour right back in your face.
I knew you were gonna do that, though. I knew you were gonna do that, and
Okay.
I knew if I went defenseman, there was no way that I wanted to get Burns first of all over Montour, so I knew I had to get the defenseman first. But I was debating on taking this other player who, if I went defenseman, knew that you would go, which left this guy on the board for me.
Who? Jordan Martinook?
Give me your guy, Carter Verhaeghe.
Oh,
Carter Verhaeghe, welcome to the team. He's gonna score some daggers on you, pal. You're
I
gonna
don't,
wish
I don't
you're
even
gonna
know
wish
how
you
to
took him.
spell. I don't even know how to. That's a tough name to spell. VER
H
H.
A E
Yeah.
E H E.
Not two E's.
No, A E. H A E G H E.
Oh my God. Okay.
Verhaeghe.
You can look at that as long as you want and still doesn't look right when I write it down. But I appreciate that pick. He's clutch, gets the game winners, as I mentioned earlier on in the show. All right. I feel like I'm
Hell of a shot, dude. Hell of a shot off the rush. He can really, really shoot the pill. So goals are worth two. I think Verhaeghe, that adds a little bit of a boosted value to him in particular.
yes, it certainly does. With my next pick, I will go with a guy who can explode offensively. He's
Yeah.
done pretty decent, but I think there's another gear to his game. I'm going to go with Seth Jarvis with my next pick.
Seth Jarvis is the answer. I
Yes.
was not expecting Seth Jarvis to be the guy.
I think
Not
he's going
gonna
to come
lie.
up big here. I think he's going to come up big. He's got 6 even strength points so far this postseason, 8 points in 11 games. And I want to see more from the speedy, undersized winger.
Look, he was on my list. He was on my list, but I got a couple more names that were on my list of guys who I was considering taking. And you left the guy who's literally at the top of mine. I can't believe that I'm getting him this late in the draft, to be quite honest with you. Look, he has not had a stellar offensive playoffs here. He was kind of shut down against the Toronto Maple Leafs, but this is a point per game player over the course of the year. He's a potentially top 10 player in the NHL. I'm talking about Sasha Barkov, the captain of the Florida Panthers. Thank you very much for giving me Sasha Barkov in the 4th round. What a steal.
All good with me, man. I actually wrote down Barkov before you said it. I knew that's where you're going. That's fine.
I
I
thought
don't
you were going there. A guy who's he's underachieved to this point, but felt he was going to, explode at some point. That's how I swear I thought you were going Barkov.
No. I think that 2 goals in 11 games, you might get a few assists out of him, but unless he really turns it around, I'm not really worried about that. I'm going to take a guy who's been scoring goals. I'm going to take Sam Reinhart with my final forward pick. I just love the way he plays. I was between him and one. Well, you've got all your forwards, so I can say I was between him and Bennett. And
You didn't have Nakash on your list here?
oh, he hasn't impressed me that much this postseason,
No.
to be honest with you.
That he had a really, really quality closeout game. He's starting to heat up again. He was on my list of guys who I considered taking. All right, look, I'm surprised. You probably should have went defenseman because then you could have got the next best D-man
Yeah.
since I was done with forwards.
I'm
So I
not
guess
worried.
I'll go ahead and I'll take Aaron Ekblad if you're going to leave him there for me.
Oh, wouldn't have been my pick.
Oh, come on.
No,
All right,
wouldn't have
who
been
are
my
you
pick.
taking? Gostis Bear?
No, I'm between a couple guys. I'm still unsure. I'm between a couple. I'm still unsure. I might go just for pure attempt based off of ice time is where I think I'm going to go.
Gus
I'm
Googling.
going to go with Jacob Slavin.
Okay. Typically, he's probably the best defensive defenseman in the NHL. But if I'm not mistaken, in the playoffs, he's been able to put up some points, and I think it's just because of what you said. He's on the ice, he touches the puck a lot, and happens to rack up some assists. That's
6
not a bad
points.
thing.
6 points in 11 games, plus 14 ain't bad either, but I like the
Yeah.
6 points in 11 games. I like how neither of these goalies in this series are really standing out. Where it's not often we leave those till the very end.
No, and I was kind of hoping that you were gonna take one of these guys, so I didn't have to make the decision, and now I do. You see, I'll tell you exactly where I'm struggling here with this, okay? And this is what all fantasy, anyone who does fantasy hockey or fantasy football, baseball, whatever it is, they struggle with this. There's one category that's worth more than the other, and it's shutouts. Okay, I think that Bobrovsky has is more likely to get a shutout in this series than I think Freddie Anderson is. And because we have shutouts worth 5 points, just one shutout is worth basically 2.5 wins. So like I'm struggling here, but I'll go with the automatic 8 points, and I'll take Freddie Anderson. If I believe it's going to be the Carolina Hurricanes who win this series, I guess that means I somehow have faith in Fred Anderson to get it done. As a
He'd never
Leaf,
let you down. He'd
as a
never let you
Leaf
down.
guy, yeah, it's a painful thing to say as a Leaf guy. But like, do we really think that Bobrovsky is going to continue what he did in the Leafs series? I don't know, man. I'm not sold that he could continue to play that level of hockey for this long. We haven't seen it in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, you're right. We haven't. But we've seen it recently.
Yeah,
That's all
yeah,
I,
yeah.
that's all I really need to see to believe this. I think that we could be in a spot here where it's his series. He might come out here and say, I'm a $10 million goalie. And we're pulling it up if you're watching on YouTube. The final teams. Team Mike has Sebastian Aho, Carter Verhaeghe, and Sasha Barkov up front. Brent Burns and Aaron Ekblad on the back end, and Freddie Anderson in goal. I've got Matthew Tkachuk, Seth Jarvis, and Sam Reinhart up front. Brandon Montour and Jacob Slavin on the back end, and Sergei Bobrovsky in goal. I think we're going to have some fun following this over the next 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, absolutely we will. We'll be trading texts back and forth. Verhaeghe's going to snipe too. We're going to see Brent Burns score on the power play, and you're going to get a real quick text saying, "Told you so." Told us so. I told us so.
I'll be awaiting that, but it should be a great series. Game 1 tomorrow, Thursday, and Game 2 on Saturday night from Carolina before the series shifts south to Florida for Games 3 and 4. Mikey, any final thoughts on today's show?
Really quickly, just to put a bow on I guess a quick preview on this series. I'm curious to see if Florida can continue to have their success if Carolina continues to neutralize kind of the speed and the forecheck of their opposition. Because hey, the Devils tried to do that, and it quite frankly didn't work as much. Right, that's a pretty speedy, quick team, and they were able to neutralize them for 4 of the 5 games here. So can Florida get through that? Can their forecheck be as effective against Carolina as it was in Toronto? I'm not sure. I think that's a much stronger defensive group in Carolina. I think they're much more well built. I think they're well structured. So for that reason, I really do see that as a strong reason for believing in my Carolina Hurricanes.
All right. Well, time will tell. Mikey, always a pleasure doing this every Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we'll be through 4 games, and we'll have a better idea of how our drafts have gone, and hopefully we have an answer too of the next owner of the Ottawa Senators. So let's stir the pot. We'll get out of here on that. Thank you for making
my sweep. I was sweeping up here. We'll be through 4 games. Could be a sweep, pal.
No chance. 0% chance on a sweep. But for today, we say goodbye. For Mike DiStefano, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On NHL podcast, your team every day.